Well, guys, it's a great pleasure and an absolute warm welcome. I've got Matt here from Great Pleasures. Good evening, Matt from Australia.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. And, man, what an absolutely awesome time to get you on the phone. I know there's a bit of things are happening on your neck of the woods or your end of the world, but you've got an album coming out via Sony Columbia. It's coming to Australia on the 2nd of October, but for the rest of the world, you get it earlier on the 4th of September. I just want to ask, with the transition, because a lot of people may not know this, that the band was Beastmilk before they split up with the rest of the members, and you created Great Pleasures. And this is the first album under the title Great Pleasures, but the new album's Dreamcrash. I just want to ask, how was the transition for you and the boys to create this new band called Great Pleasures, and was there any type of hesitation of where the music direction was going to go with this new album?
Not really. We had an album in us. We were ready to do our next album as Beastmilk, and we had a breakup with one of the other founding members of the band, and we just felt like the most honest thing to do would be to change the name as we started the band with him. He left the band, and we just carried on, really. So there wasn't any question about stopping or anything. We're just moving forward, and we had all this music and all these songs we were writing, and that to us felt like the most important thing. You know, if you have something really important in you as an artist to get out there and express, it just you can't really hold it in. You know, you've got to let it out, and we had to release this monster that we had sort of growing. And it felt like there wasn't really a choice there. It was totally natural to carry on. I think a lot of people get really caught up in a name change of a band, but it's just a name, really.
You're getting a lot of press reports like Rolling Stone magazine and some other outlets over the world, basically, about this new album coming out. Are you flattered by the response that you guys have been getting so far, even though the album hasn't been released yet?
Yeah, absolutely. It's always an absolute pleasure, when people pick up on it. And I think that, it wasn't our intention to be doing something fresh, but I think that there's less and less interesting stuff going on, and I guess we picked up on something that hasn't been going around for a while. So some of the influences and vibes in the record is maybe touching on some nerves that haven't been picked up on before for a while. So it's really exciting for us. When you sit down and make music, you don't necessarily intend it to be caught up on a certain way, but it's really great that people have been enjoying it and getting into it. We just have to see how it goes from here.
Well, let's get on to some of the members of the band. Uno, who's a drummer, and I believe he's arguably one of the best drummers in this generation of what it is. He just he just basically just shows his talent throughout this album. I mean, when people ask me what's my favourite song of So Forth album, I said there can't be a favourite. You've got to listen to the whole album to get the proper message. But with Uno, he is a talented drummer, and all credit for him. And and having co-founded and played in Sweden as well for 13 years, he basically got his work.
He's a fantastic drummer, and he's very inspiring as a musician to work with. We were very lucky to have hooked up with him. It was just a matter of timing. In Solitude broke up. We'd already started, working on the second record and changing the name. And they broke up. We'd been on tour with them as Beastmilk, so we already had a connection personally with Uno. So it was just really natural to extend, an invite to see if he wanted to come and play with us. And we were very lucky that he was really into the idea. I think that all of us sort of coming from that breakup vibe, Linnea, the other guitarist with her band The Oath, and from In Solitude, that it was just a feeling that we all wanted to get stuck into some music and let the music kind of, be a catharsis for us, to be a bit of a release of some of this sort of bad vibes and bad juju that was going around. So I mean, he's been an amazing, very valuable member on the record. You know, he's been very involved in the arranging, and his sort of artistic stamp is, as you said, it's all over the record. I saw him play with In Solitude years and years ago when I first moved to Finland. They came and played a festival here, and I was just blown away. I was like, this, you know, really young guy, super talented, with a lot of different styles within him, and you rarely see that in a drummer. You know, I think he's one of the best out there, and he's just going to keep on growing as a musician as well. He's one of those drummers that you see, you watch, and it's much more than just a drummer. You know, he's a real musician. And it's just very rare. You know, a lot of guys these days, I think, learning drums, they try and, you know, learn styles, or they try and learn to play very fast or whatever. They get caught up in the technical aspects of it. And he's a drummer that drums with feeling and you know, approaches it from a very musical sort of place. So it's a real honour to play with him. And
secondly, for a member, Juho, who is a musician by profession and a tasteful, he's a tasteful guitarist. I mean, his Screaming Telecaster is one of his trademarks of much respect to psychedelic black metal. And the way he plays that in this album, you can hear the melody, you can hear the guitar battles throughout the album. What's your personal opinion on that? Because not a lot of bands nowadays will have that type of melody. But when it comes to fruition and it does work, it's just a standing thing for me.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are afraid of sticking their neck out when it comes to music, especially in sort of heavier genres of music. And we just sort of, I mean, I've grown up in the avant-garde side of black metal, and, you know, really trying to be pushing the boundaries of things. So I think when we're looking at the music, we're trying to just be free and rebellious with how we use melody and how we approach the songwriting. I think that stuff was very much part of what was going on in the 80s, and I just think, you know, a lot of bands are afraid to do that. They're afraid to make you know, very bold statements. So the way that Juho plays, he's a very schooled musician. He's a guitar teacher by profession, and he plays in a lot of different styles of bands. He has another band which is an improvisational jazz psychedelic kind of metal band, and that's fantastic stuff. And then he plays in Oranzi Pazuzu, which is, of course, one of the most interesting things happening in black metal, I think. So he really brought a very open kind of way of playing on the record, very free, and I think it's really interesting to have all these guys working together, because it's almost like it's sort of like a quiet supergroup of very talented musicians, all sort of like feeding off each other. I think the result is a really mature and a really exciting album.
Well, going back on Dreamcrash, the album, a couple of songs that really come to my mind, the singles. It's like Lipstick on Your Tombstone. You've got basically Girl in a Vortex. I mean, this is a black metal with a bit of sex appeal underneath of it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a very, they come from a very dark place, and there's a lot in common with the way that, black metal is written. I mean, of course, we would never claim to be a black metal band, but that's been part of our past, and of course, it influences the way that we write music. And it's very dark stuff, but at the same time, very pop. A lot of pop melodies and catchy things going on there. I think, as I said, people are really afraid of that kind of stuff, and we kind of embrace it. We embrace doing something which is almost, rebellious by nature. It goes against sort of what people in the scene would accept. But strangely enough, people have really got into it. I think it's that it comes from an honest place. You can tell that we're really doing things by heart. And there's the black metal connection, maybe, that the black metal was the only genre that's come along in rock music in the past few years that's really kind of stuck its middle finger up and said we're going to do what we want. So as a result, I think it's been a very creative genre, and I'm proud that we have some connections there, and it helps spawn what we're doing.
It truly is. I mean, you're talking about black metal, like Cradle of Filth is another black metal band as well, with a bit of edge to it as well. But the way that you guys have produced this album and carried it out, it's a different type of sex appeal. I mean, it's different than the 80s and the 90s sex appeal, but with the way that the world was going in the last decade or two, this album is a new flavour. And with the crap that's been going on in the world, there's no more need to talk about politics or religion or anything like that. It's basically talk what's on the mind, and that's basically what you guys have said, that this album is more of a fight or a war within your own mind.
That's right, yeah. I think so, definitely.
But the question I like to ask is, how important for you, being a singer and a member of Great Pleasures, how irrelevant it is to maintain the status that you guys got, to be on top of things? Because the way the music industry is at the moment, when the new band starts out, they're not really getting the big fish type of thing, because the record labels are not there to support them as much as they were 20 years ago. But back to the point I'm trying to make, how irrelevant is for you to be on top of things and to be in the music business today and keep growing and growing with the success that you already got with the other band that you're in called Beastmilk?
It's very. I mean, it's like every day is a war. You know, you're having to learn new things every day. I think as a musician these days, someone said, I was reading a quote by another musician the other day. I can't remember his name, but he mentioned that you've got to be a merchandiser these days. You've got to be a T-shirt salesman to be a successful musician, and that's true. But you've got to be much more than that. I mean, you've got to be an accountant. You've got to be a businessman, and you've got to be a salesperson. You've got to be very good at marketing. You've got to be great at online. You just got to be an all-round jack of all trades. And it's very difficult to do all that and remain creative at the same time. So it's no wonder that a lot of people out there become successful simply as business people, and you can hear it in the music. And there's nothing wrong with that, because that can be interesting too. But I think it's you miss all those very heartfelt bands, the Led Zeppelins and the Black Sabbaths and stuff like that. They don't come around so often anymore because those kind of guys, they'd never be interested in getting involved in the business side of things, and you'd never have John Bonham sitting down at a computer and writing Facebook updates. It's not going to happen. So it's a little bit sad that it's very rare to find the creative and that side matches, and you've got to be very lucky. I think some of the biggest successful bands today were just very lucky. They had good management behind them. You've got to be you've got to be really on fire and really on the ball and really, really want it more than ever these days to make it happen for you. And the only thing I can say to young musicians is that you have to be prepared for that. That it's not all you don't get to a certain point where it's like, okay, now we can sit back and enjoy ourselves and have fun backstage. You're pretty much working all the time. And the online stuff is a big part of it now, and I think it's a bit sad because I don't enjoy that. I like making music. I feel like I'm a musician more than I am all that other stuff, but it's very important. Yeah, sadly.
It is. I mean, you guys just recently done the summer festivals over in Europe. Now it's coming into the spring. Well, not spring, but autumn, I should say. Coming to our spring in Australia. You're going on to a European tour as well. They're going right through to London, and you're starting on the 29th of August and going right through to London at the end of it. I want to ask, what is on the horizon for Great Pleasures? Is there any big plans for you guys in the next year or so to bring it worldwide, like come to Australia? Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. We talk about those things a lot. I think the plan is now we start off in Europe and we build it, and then we're going to have our American release coming later on this year. I think it goes out, so the American one will be in November, and then into next year we'll start trying to get out there a bit more. So plans to go to all the States and then come over to Australia and maybe do something in Japan. Yeah. We're just trying to build the band as much as we can, so obviously when the opportunity's there, we'll jump on it. All of us really enjoy touring and being on the road, and of course Australia's a dream. I've never been over there. I've got a lot of mates who live over there. Funnily enough, a lot of my friends from the UK, where I grew up, they all moved over to Australia. It must be something that that feel a certain kinship to Australia. So it's definitely a dream of ours to come over there and play.
Well,
and of course, AC/DC and everything. It's like a place of great music.
Yeah, it's just basically at this present time we won't talk about the cricket just yet because we got smashed by England in the Ashes, but we won't talk about that.
Oh yeah.
Well,
that rarely happens. So you got to hand it to England. I mean, let them win one.
yeah, we do. I mean, that's the rivalry we got, but we always be brothers on the playing field. I mean, England fight wars on the beach, we fight wars on the playing field. But just one last question: how was it like working with the producer Tom on this album? Because he'd done great work with Royal Blood and Killing Joke as well. But for him to put his fingerprints on this album in the producing side of things, was a well polished album.
Yeah, we were very lucky to work with him again, and that was a connection that was made because he was into the music. So we were quite surprised. He turned up to see us live down in Bristol, near where he lives, and kind of hassled us a lot. Said he really wanted to work with us, and that was something really surprising for us. He's a big name in the business, and I like what he's done with Royal Blood and other bands, with Killing Joke especially. So for us, it was a good connection from the beginning. He's a great guy, and he really approached the record from a different, direction than someone from the heavier side of things that would have, maybe done things a little bit more predictably. Tom took things in a different way, and I think that gave the album a different flavour. I think if had we had someone for a heavier background that we would have, had a connection with it in the beginning, that we would have known, then things might have been a bit more predictable. But Tom really opened it up, and I think gave it that feeling that some really good classic rock vibes. And he's worked with Susie Sue from Susie and the Banshees, so he's kind of schooled in the 80s stuff as well. So that made sure that we had a lot of those vibes that we wanted there on the record. And yeah, it just brought a very different atmosphere into the studio. It's not somebody that we would have sat down at the beginning and picked out of a hat. And I think that's something that we try to replicate, all the time, is this sort of don't do things by the book. We try to surprise ourselves, working with somebody different who brings something else to the table that we wouldn't have imagined from the beginning,
Yeah, exactly right. Well, guys, Dreamcrash from Great Pleasures will be out in Australia on the 2nd of October. If you're the rest of the world, you get it on the 4th of September, which will be a great Father's Day present. If the father likes this type of music, get it for your father, get it for yourself if you have to. But also, for Australian listeners, please get them at all your record stores in Australia, even the independent ones, because these independent ones need our hard-earned money. Do not illegal download. I hate it with a passion. So go and put your hard-earned money to buy the album, because we want to get this out there for the fans to support and enjoy it. And Matt, it's a great time to speak to you as well about Great Pleasures. And not only that, just to give you guys a bit of a 2 thumbs up from me personally, because this album is really is a great album, and all credit to you guys.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, guys.
Cheers. Appreciate it.
That's all right. All right, guys, if you want to check them out, they're on Facebook. Please go and check Great Pleasures out on Facebook. They'll have all these new information that you need. And also go and check them on the website. You can check their biography and also photos and tour information around the world that they're doing. So please get onto their sites. All right, guys, we've got to get going. And thanks, Matt. It's an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Cheers,
Thank you,
Jamie.
Jamie.
Take it.
Matt, can you stay where you are, Matt?
Thank you.